He promised me forever, then left me for my sister. Chapter 1. The night everything fell apart. The night I found out he was cheating wasn't cinematic. There was no thunderstorm outside, no dramatic music swelling. Just the soft click of my phone screen lighting up with a notification. I had just finished icing the cupcakes for his surprise party, chocolate, his favorite, when Kara's name flashed on my screen. A simple text, one that shattered everything. Kara. Can't wait to call you my sister, officially. Attached. A photo, them, in bed, smiling. My fiancé, my sister. My hands went numb. The plate of cupcakes crashed to the floor. The noise didn't even make me flinch. I just stared at the photo until my vision blurred. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was some cruel prank. But deep down, something inside me cracked. Something that had already been hanging by a thread for months. The late-night meetings, the sudden trips, the way he started locking his phone. All the signs were there. I just refused to see them. Not until they forced me. Not until my sister, the one I used to braid hair with, the one who cried at my engagement, decided she wanted him for herself. He came home an hour later, whistling, like the world hadn't just ended. The smell of rain clung to his leather jacket. "Hey, baby," Liam said, tossing his keys onto the counter. "Smells good. What's for—" He stopped when he saw the broken cupcakes on the floor. Then his eyes found me, still clutching my phone like it was the only thing keeping me upright. His face shifted, from confusion to panic. "Maya," he said, stepping closer. "I can explain." "Explain? Explain what? Explain how he was about to marry me while screwing my sister?" My mouth wouldn't work. My chest hurt. I shoved the phone into his hands. He stared at the screen. For a second, he looked ashamed. But then, unbelievably, he shrugged. "It's not what it looks like." The words hit me harder than a slap. "Then what is it, Liam?" I whispered, voice shaking. "Explain it to me." He raked a hand through his hair. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You accidentally fell into her bed?" His jaw clenched. "You've been so distant lately," he snapped. "Always tired, always stressed. I needed someone—" "I'm pregnant," I said. The words slipped out before I could stop them. And for the first time that night, he looked genuinely stunned. He opened his mouth, closed it. "Pregnant?" he repeated, like the word was foreign. I nodded, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. And that's when I saw it. The truth, plain as day. He didn't want me. He didn't want our baby. He wanted her. I left that night. No bags, no plan, just the raw, ragged pieces of a future that no longer existed. And as I slammed the door behind me, I promised myself one thing. They would regret losing me. Chapter 2. Ashes and Beginnings. The city didn't welcome me. It swallowed me. Gray skies, endless noise, strangers brushing past me like I was invisible. But maybe invisibility was exactly what I needed. I found a crumbling one-bedroom apartment above a liquor store. The walls were cracked. The radiator clanked at night. But it had a door that locked and no memories clinging to the corners. I lived off instant noodles and the little savings I hadn't even realized I'd managed to hide from Liam. A battered suitcase, a second-hand phone with no saved contacts, an ultrasound picture folded in the back of my wallet. That was all I had. Pregnancy wasn't the beautiful journey I once dreamed about. It was brutal, lonely. Some days, I could barely crawl out of bed. Morning sickness turned into all-day sickness. The walls closed in. And no matter how loud the city roared outside, all I heard were their voices. "She's better for me, Maya." I needed someone who understood me You changed." Their laughter haunted me in my sleep. I woke up gasping, clutching my belly, whispering promises to a baby who hadn't even been born yet. "I'll never let anyone hurt you." I found work at a rundown diner 3 blocks away. The boss, Mr. Harris, was an old grump who barked orders but secretly left extra sandwiches for me at the end of the shift. The pay was terrible. The hours were worse, but it was enough. Enough to keep the lights on. Enough to buy vitamins. Enough to pretend I was surviving. Some nights, after my shift ended and the streets emptied, I sat on the fire escape and stared at the stars. I wondered if Liam ever looked up and thought about me. I wondered if my sister wore the ring he once gave me. And then I forced myself to stop wondering. Because wondering was a trap, and I had a tiny heartbeat inside me that needed me to move forward. When Noah was born, the world changed. The moment I held him, red-faced, screaming, tiny fingers curling around mine, I felt something break inside me. Not pain, not fear. Something beautiful. Something fierce. It didn't matter who his father was. It didn't matter what bloodline he carried. He was mine. And from that moment on, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting. The first year was a blur of sleepless nights, teething, first steps. The first time Noah smiled at me, really smiled, gummy and pure, I realized something incredible. Liam's betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of something far greater. 2 years passed. Noah grew into a whirlwind of giggles and scraped knees. I worked double shifts at the diner and took online classes during his naps. Law school, of all things. Because if the world was going to chew me up, I wanted the tools to fight back. I wasn't just building a life for me anymore. I was building an empire for us. Brick by painful brick. I didn't hear Liam's name again. Not until the day he walked through the diner's door. Not until the past crashed into my present, shattering everything I had so carefully rebuilt. He looked the same. Worse, maybe. His hair was shorter, his jawline sharper. But the moment he saw me, the mask he wore cracked. "Maya," he said, like the word hurt. And for a heartbeat, I felt 14 again, sneaking into his truck after curfew. 18 again, wearing his varsity jacket. 19 again, slipping a ring onto my finger and promising forever. But then Noah tugged at my apron, and Liam's eyes dropped down to him, and I saw the realization dawn, saw the color drain from his face. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Is he?" I didn't answer, didn't owe him one. I picked up Noah and turned away. But of course he followed. Because Liam Hayes never knew when to quit. Outside, the rain poured like the sky itself was breaking apart. He caught my arm. Not roughly, almost desperately. "Is he mine?" I pulled away. "You lost the right to ask that question the night you proposed to my sister?" He flinched. God, it felt good to see him flinch. "I didn't know." "Didn't know what?" I snapped. "That actions have consequences?" Noah whimpered in my arms, sensing the tension. I softened, kissed his forehead. I wasn't going to fight in front of my son. Liam saw it, the way I soothed the child, and his face crumpled. "I didn't know," he said again, quieter. "Maya, please, let me explain." I laughed, not bitter, not broken, just tired. "There's nothing you can say that will ever undo what you did." The rain drowned his protests. I walked away, held Noah closer, and for the first time in a long, long time, I realized something powerful. I didn't need his apologies. I didn't need his explanations. I had already saved myself. Chapter 3. The paper that broke me. I thought I was done with Liam. I thought I'd buried every piece of him somewhere deep inside, where he could never reach me again. But betrayal has a way of bleeding through even the strongest stitches, especially when it's hand-delivered to your door in the form of a court summons. It came on a Tuesday. Typical. Nothing good ever happened on a Tuesday. I had just gotten Noah down for his nap, balancing a pile of dirty laundry on one hip, when the doorbell buzzed. A man in a navy blazer stood outside, holding a large envelope. "Maya Sinclair?" he asked, checking a clipboard. "Depends who's asking," I said, already feeling the dread creep up my spine. He didn't smile, just handed me the envelope and turned away. No explanations, no apologies, just a delivery of devastation. Inside the envelope, notice of intent to establish paternity, petition for partial custody, filed by Liam Hayes. The room tilted. I gripped the wall to stay upright. No, he couldn't. He didn't even want Noah. He didn't even know him. This was about control. This was about guilt. This was about him realizing, too late, what he threw away. I wanted to scream, wanted to rip the papers apart, but I didn't. Because Noah stirred in the next room. Because anger wouldn't protect him. Strategy would. The next day, I walked into a law office that smelled like lemon cleaner and cold ambition. The receptionist barely looked up. "Walk-ins are full for the day." I pressed the crumpled summons onto her desk. Her eyebrows shot up. "Custody case?" I nodded. Something, maybe pity, softened her face. "One moment." She disappeared behind a frosted glass door. When she came back, she wasn't alone. And that's when I met Cole Weston. He didn't look like a lawyer. He looked like a storm wearing a tailored suit. Dark hair, sharp green eyes, a smile that could slice you open and make you thank him for it. "You're Maya Sinclair?" he asked, voice low, calm. "Unfortunately," I muttered. His mouth quirked. "Come in." His office was tidy, minimalistic. Nothing to suggest he dealt with the wreckage of broken families on a daily basis. He gestured for me to sit. I didn't. Instead, I slammed the summons onto his pristine desk. "I don't have a lot of money," I said. "I can't pay a fancy retainer." He studied me for a long moment. I hated how warm his eyes were, like he could see every crack in my armor. "You have something better," he finally said. I blinked. "What?" He tapped the papers. "A case." The next hour blurred. Cole dissected the situation with surgical precision. He didn't pity me, didn't coddle me. He made a plan. A brutal, beautiful plan. Establish sole custody. Expose Liam's abandonment. Document everything. "He's not suing for Noah," Cole said, tapping his pen against the desk. "He's suing for redemption. For himself." I swallowed hard. "You think I can win?" He leaned forward, eyes locking onto mine. "I think you already have," he said. "You just don't know it yet." Outside the law office, the sun was blinding. I squinted up at the sky, feeling something unfamiliar unfurl in my chest. Hope. Not the fragile kind. The dangerous kind. The kind that could sharpen into a weapon. That night, after Noah was asleep, I stood at the window and stared at the city. Somewhere out there, Liam was sleeping in some sterile, too-big house, with my sister playing housewife. Somewhere out there, they thought they had already won. But they didn't know something crucial. They didn't know that the girl they betrayed had turned into a woman they should fear. The war had just begun. And this time, I wasn't fighting to survive. I was fighting to win. Chapter 4. Lines in the Sand. The first court date was set for 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of panic, fury, and fear gnawing at me, no matter how many times Cole reassured me. "We've got this." It wasn't just court. It was Liam, stalking back into my life like a ghost that wouldn't stay buried. And the worst part? Noah started asking questions. "Who's the man, Mommy?" he whispered one night, curled up beside me as the rain drummed against the windows. I brushed his hair back. "No one important, baby." A lie, but sometimes lies are softer than the truth. Cole was relentless. He made me gather every scrap of evidence. Messages from Liam, receipts proving I supported Noah alone. Statements from coworkers who had seen me juggle shifts with a newborn strapped to my chest. "You've done more alone than he ever will," Cole said one night, pushing his glasses up as we sat at the kitchen table, papers scattered everywhere. I smiled bitterly. "Not exactly a high bar." He leaned back, studying me. "You're too hard on yourself." I shrugged. If I wasn't, I'd be dead. The silence between us wasn't heavy. It was charged, like static before a storm. The night before the first court hearing, I couldn't sleep. I paced, cleaned, checked on Noah a dozen times. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "I miss you. I made a mistake. Please call me. Liam." I stared at the message until the screen went dark. He was trying to crawl back into my life with sweet words and empty promises. I deleted the text without replying. He had made his choice when he married my sister. No second chances. Not anymore. Court smelled like old paper and stale coffee. Noah stayed with Mrs. Harlow, my neighbor. I walked through the courthouse doors in the only blazer I owned, my shoes pinching my feet. Cole was already there, leaning against a marble column, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when he saw me and smiled. "You ready to destroy him?" I swallowed. Nodded, because I had no choice. Liam was already inside, sitting at the petitioner's table with a slick lawyer who looked like a used car salesman. And behind him, my sister, Kara, perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect fake sympathy painted on her face. I locked eyes with her. She flinched. Good. The judge was a stern woman with silver hair pulled into a tight bun. She skimmed through the file with sharp, bird-like motions. "Mr. Hayes," she said, voice clipped, "you are petitioning for partial custody of a child you've never met?" Liam stood, cleared his throat. "Yes, Your Honor. I only just discovered I have a son. I want to be part of his life." His voice cracked. "Fake. All fake." I clenched my fists under the table. Cole squeezed my arm once. "Ms. Sinclair," the judge said, turning to me. "Your response?" I stood. "My son has only ever known me. His father abandoned us before he was even born. This isn't about Noah's life. This is about control." The judge raised an eyebrow. Cole stood, motioned for permission to approach, and laid out the documentation. Financial records, employment records, proof of consistent solo parenting, witness statements, cold, hard evidence. I could see Liam deflating with every piece of paper. But Kara leaned in, whispering something in his ear. His lawyer stood. "Your Honor," the man said smoothly, "Mr. Hayes believes Ms. Sinclair has manipulated events to alienate his son from him." Cole stood before the man even finished. "Objection, baseless accusation. No evidence provided." The judge frowned. "I'll allow discovery, but tread carefully, gentlemen." The hearing adjourned with no decision. Just a date set for the full custody trial in 3 months. 3 more months of limbo. 3 more months of Liam circling like a vulture. Outside the courthouse, the gray sky threatened rain. Cole shrugged off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. "You're freezing," he said, voice rough. I didn't argue. We stood there in the parking lot, traffic roaring past, 2 broken people stitched together by something more. Something dangerous. Something fragile. Thank you, I whispered. His hand brushed my cheek, featherlight. You don't have to thank me. The air between us shifted, thickened. He leaned in, and I panicked. Took a step back. I need to get Noah. Cole's jaw tightened, but he didn't push, just nodded. I'll call you tomorrow. And just like that, the moment snapped. I drove home with my hands trembling on the wheel, because I hadn't just walked away from Cole. I had walked away from the possibility of something real, something terrifying, something I wasn't sure I deserved. Not after everything, but fate wasn't done with me. Sitting on my doorstep when I got home was Kara, sobbing, makeup running, bruises blooming along her jawline. When she looked up at me, her voice cracked apart. He's going to ruin you, Maya, she whispered. You have no idea what you're fighting. Chapter 5. Breaking Points. The next few days felt like I was living in a nightmare that refused to end. I barely slept, my mind running through the same scenes over and over. The courtroom, Liam's smug face, Kara's empty sympathy. And then there was Cole, who had been a constant presence, always by my side, but with each passing day, I could feel something between us shifting. I couldn't decide if it was relief or regret or fear, but it was there, lingering, unspoken. Noah, thankfully, had no idea what was going on. To him, I was just Mom, the one who fed him, played with him, and kissed his bruises when he fell. I couldn't bear the thought of dragging him into this mess. So, I kept him in his little bubble of safety. At least I could give him that. But that didn't stop me from feeling the weight of everything on my shoulders. Every time I saw Liam's name on my phone, my heart skipped. The text messages kept coming. Please, Maya, I can't live with this. I need to talk to you. I ignored everyone. It was hard, though. I could feel myself wanting to reply, to hear him out, to believe the words he was saying. But I knew better. I was better than that. Kara, on the other hand, didn't give me a choice. She started showing up at my door more often, her face tight with something I couldn't read. Every time, I told her to leave, but she kept coming back. I'm just trying to help you, Maya, she said, her voice breaking the last time. I hadn't seen her like this before, vulnerable, almost shattered. He's going to take everything from you, and I don't want to see you lose Noah. Her words echoed in my head long after she was gone. Was she really trying to help, or was this just another way to manipulate me into giving up my fight for Noah? The thought made my stomach churn. She had her life. Why was she still so determined to ruin mine? Cole's visits to my apartment grew more frequent. We talked about everything and nothing, but there was always that silent question between us. What now? I saw how he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. His gaze wasn't just sympathy anymore. It was something deeper, something warmer. But I didn't trust myself enough to act on it, and I didn't want to ruin our fragile alliance. Things came to a head one afternoon when I went to pick up Noah from Mrs. Harlow's house. Kara was waiting on my doorstep again, her eyes red and puffy, like she'd been crying for hours. I'm sorry, Maya, she whispered, stepping back to let me pass. But you need to know something. I froze, my hand on the door. What? It's Liam. He's planning on taking you to court for full custody. He has proof. He's not going to stop. Her voice cracked on the last words. She looked so lost, so broken that I almost believed her. I shook my head. This isn't your fight, Kara. It's between me and him. No, it's not. Not anymore. She took a step closer, her hands trembling. You don't know him the way I do. You don't know what he's capable of. He'll do anything to win. I took a step back. Why are you telling me this? Why now? Her lips trembled. Because I don't want to lose you, Maya. You're my sister, and I don't want to be the one who stands in your way. But I can't let him ruin everything you've worked for. I can't let him take Noah. The words hit me like a slap. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. Had she really come to me, the same woman who had stolen everything from me, to offer help? Was it a trick? Or did she actually mean it? I wanted to scream at her, to throw her out and never speak to her again. But something inside me knew I couldn't. Not yet. I needed time. Time to figure out what was real and what was another lie in this twisted web I found myself tangled in. As I turned away from her and walked back into my apartment, the weight of the situation pressed down on me harder than ever. What if Kara was right? What if Liam really was planning to take everything? And what if, in the end, I was all alone? Chapter 6. Unraveling Threads. I couldn't stop thinking about Kara's warning. Liam was planning to fight for Noah, and he had proof. What kind of proof? What did he have against me? My mind raced, turning every conversation, every moment, over and over. My phone buzzed, dragging me out of my spiraling thoughts. A message from Cole. You good? Need to talk? I stared at it for a moment. Number I wasn't good. But I didn't want to burden him. Not yet. I shoved my phone in my pocket and glanced at the clock. I had to pick up Noah. The air outside felt different, heavier, like something was about to break. Mrs. Harlow opened the door before I even rang the bell. He's been asking for you, she said, smiling kindly, but there was something behind her eyes. She knew. Everyone knew. I hugged Noah tightly, feeling his warmth, his little hands wrapping around me. He was my world. No matter what happened with Liam, he would never take that away. I walked back to my apartment, holding Noah's hand, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and every shadow seemed to whisper. I didn't tell Noah to look around, but he did anyway. Mommy, who's that man? He asked, pointing to the street across from our building. I froze. There was a man standing near the corner, watching us intently. His face was partially obscured by a cap, but I saw the glint of recognition in his eyes. I grabbed Noah's hand tighter, pulling him into the building and slamming the door behind us. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know if I was imagining things or if it was really Liam or someone sent by him. Either way, it didn't matter. I wasn't letting him back into my life. Not now. Not ever. I called Cole immediately, my voice trembling. I need you to come over. Now. He didn't question it, just told me to stay put. 10 minutes later, he was at my door, his face tight with concern. What happened? He asked, glancing around. I told him everything, from the man on the corner to Kara's warning about Liam's plans. We need to be prepared, he said, his voice steady. We're going to fight this, and we're going to win. But I wasn't so sure, not anymore. I had been so sure when I first filed for sole custody. I had done everything right, or so I thought. But Liam wasn't just a father trying to find his son. He was a man with nothing left to lose, and that made him dangerous. I don't know if I can do this, Cole, I said quietly, my voice breaking. He placed a hand on my shoulder, his touch gentle. You're stronger than you think, and you're not doing this alone. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that the man standing in front of me could help me fight. But something in the pit of my stomach told me this wasn't going to be easy. Liam wasn't going to stop until he had what he wanted. And what he wanted was Noah. I watched as Cole left, my heart in a knot. I didn't know how much more of this I could take. Every day felt like a new battle, a new twist in a story I didn't want to be a part of. But I couldn't stop. I had to keep going. For Noah. As the days stretched on, things only got worse. More late-night messages from Liam, more cryptic texts from Kara, telling me to be careful, that things were getting out of hand. But I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't just sit here and wait for Liam to make his move. I had to do something, anything. So, I made a decision. I was going to confront Liam. I needed answers. I needed to know what he was planning and how far he was willing to go to tear my life apart. Chapter 7. The Confrontation. I didn't tell Cole what I was planning. I couldn't. I knew he'd try to talk me out of it, and deep down, I didn't want to hear it. I needed to do this on my own. For once, I needed to feel like I had control over something in my life. So, I gathered my courage and drove to the last place I wanted to be, the house Liam and Kara now called home. The familiar ache of betrayal hit me as I parked across the street, staring at the house. The windows seemed darker than I remembered. Cold. It had once been our home, where we built our lives together, or so I thought. Now, it felt like a prison. I got out of the car, my heart pounding in my chest. The cool evening air did nothing to calm my nerves. I was walking into a lion's den. I walked up to the door, my steps hesitant, but I couldn't turn back now. I rang the doorbell, and a moment later, the door creaked open. Liam stood there, his face unreadable. He looked the same, but everything else about him was different. The man I had once loved was gone. In his place stood a stranger. "Maya," he said quietly, almost as if he wasn't sure what to say next. I took a deep breath, my voice steady despite the rush of emotions inside me. "We need to talk." He stepped aside, letting me in, but the air between us was thick with tension. The house smelled like new furniture, a far cry from the warmth it once had. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice low. "I want to know what you're planning, Liam. I want to know what you think you can take from me," I snapped, my anger bubbling up. "You think you can waltz back into our lives like nothing happened? Like I'm just supposed to let you destroy everything I've worked for?" He stared at me for a long moment, his jaw clenched. "It's not like that, Maya. I want to be a father to Noah. I know I've made mistakes. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I can't just walk away." "You don't get to decide that," I spat, my voice shaking with fury. "You had your chance, Liam. You left. You chose Kara. You chose everything else over your son. Now you want to play the hero? You don't get to come back and break us apart." He flinched, but I didn't care. "I know I hurt you," he said quietly, his eyes filled with regret. "But this isn't just about me, Maya. This is about Noah. I want him in my life, and I'm not going to stop until I have him." I could feel the rage burning in my chest. How dare he? "You want to be part of his life?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Then you should have thought of that before you walked away. You don't get to waltz in and pretend like you're a father now." He reached out, his hand trembling. "I'm sorry, Maya, but I'm not giving up on him. I won't let you keep him from me." "You already gave up," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "And now you're just using him as a pawn in some sick game. You're not going to win this." He looked at me, his eyes cold and distant. "We'll see about that." I stood there, the silence between us suffocating, until he stepped back and closed the door. I stood frozen for a moment, my heart racing in my chest. I wanted to scream, to punch the door down, but I didn't. I had already given him everything once. I wasn't going to let him do it again. With shaking hands, I turned and walked back to my car, my mind racing. The man I had once loved was gone, and now I had no idea who the hell he was. Chapter 8. Cracks in the Facade. I didn't tell Cole about the confrontation. I couldn't bring myself to say the words, not yet. I wasn't ready to admit how broken I felt, how shattered everything had become. Instead, I threw myself into work, pretending that life was normal, even though every minute felt like it was slipping through my fingers. Noah noticed. Of course he did. He was too smart for his own good. He'd ask me about Daddy, about Liam, about why we couldn't go to the park like we used to. His questions were innocent, but they felt like knives digging into my heart. Every answer I gave him felt like a lie. I tried to keep things light. I took him to the zoo, made him pancakes for dinner, played every game he wanted to play, but nothing was the same. The weight of Liam's threat was always there, lurking in the background. And then there were Kara's visits. She kept showing up, always with that same worried look on her face, always telling me that I needed to be careful. It was exhausting. She was right about one thing. Things were getting worse, but I couldn't tell if she was trying to help or if she was playing some twisted game of her own. It was hard to trust anyone anymore. One night, when Noah was asleep, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the stack of papers in front of me. Court documents, affidavits, letters from my lawyer. I had a meeting with him the next morning. The pressure was suffocating. My mind kept drifting back to Kara's words. He'll do anything to win. What was he planning? What kind of proof did he have? Was he playing dirty? I couldn't shake the fear that he was just waiting for the right moment to destroy me. The doorbell rang, dragging me out of my thoughts. I glanced at the clock. It was late, but I knew who it was. I wasn't surprised when I opened the door and found Cole standing there. I didn't want to bother you, he said, his voice soft. But I was worried about you, about Noah. I stepped aside, letting him in. It's fine, I'm fine, I said, but the words felt hollow. No, you're not, he replied, walking into the kitchen. Maya, you can't keep doing this. You're running on empty. You can't protect Noah if you're falling apart yourself. I sighed, leaning against the counter. I know. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so scared, Cole. I'm scared that I'll lose him. I'm scared that Liam will take him away from me, and I won't be able to stop him. He stepped closer, his eyes soft with understanding. You're not alone in this, Maya. I'm here. I'll help you fight, whatever it takes. His words brought a small measure of comfort, but the fear still gnawed at my insides. What if I wasn't strong enough? What if I couldn't protect Noah from the storm that was coming? What if I can't do it? I whispered, my voice cracking. What if I lose? Cole didn't say anything for a long moment. Instead, he pulled me into a hug, his arms strong and steady around me. I didn't pull away. I couldn't. For the first time in days, I allowed myself to feel something other than fear. I felt safe, if only for a moment. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The next morning, I met with my lawyer. I laid out everything: the messages from Liam, the threats, the fear that had consumed me. We went over the court documents, and he explained the legal steps we would need to take. But nothing he said gave me peace. There was too much at stake. The battle for Noah wasn't just about custody anymore. It was about my entire life. It was about everything I had worked so hard to build. And I couldn't lose it. Not now. Not after everything. Chapter 9. The Calm Before the Storm. The days dragged on in a haze of tension and uncertainty. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't control. Every phone call, every message from Liam sent a jolt of panic through me. He was getting closer to his goal. His plans, whatever they were falling into place, and I was stuck waiting, unable to do anything to stop it. Kara's visits became more frequent. Every time she came, she had some new piece of information, some new warning. "He's talking to people, Maya," she said one afternoon. "He's getting help. You're not going to win this alone?" "I'm not asking for your help," I snapped, my patience wearing thin. "Then what do you expect me to do? Stand aside and let you lose Noah? Is that really what you want?" I felt my stomach twist. "What do you think I'm doing, Kara? What do you think I've been doing this whole time?" She looked away, guilt flashing across her face, but she didn't apologize. She didn't have to. She knew what she had done. She had taken everything from me, and now she was trying to act like she was the one saving me. The doorbell rang again that evening. This time, I was expecting it. It was Cole. He'd been coming around more often, especially since I'd gotten the call from my lawyer. He knocked softly, then stepped inside without waiting for me to answer. "You need to prepare yourself," he said, his tone serious. "The hearing's in 2 days, and things are about to get ugly. Liam's got all his bases covered. He's got his lawyer, and I'm hearing he's pulling in witnesses." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Witnesses?" I whispered. "Who?" "I don't know yet, but it's bad. Whatever he's got planned, it's not going to be easy." I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. I could feel the panic rising again, clawing at my throat. I thought I was ready for this. I thought I could handle it. But I wasn't ready for the storm that was coming. Cole reached out, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Maya. We'll get through it." But his words didn't comfort me like they used to. I wanted to believe him, but the doubt was already taking root. I had no idea how I was supposed to win this fight. Liam was playing a different game, one I wasn't prepared for. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. The dark felt suffocating, pressing down on me. I kept seeing Noah's face, his innocent eyes, his trust in me. I couldn't let him down. I couldn't let Liam take him from me. I closed my eyes and tried to steady my breathing, but the fear was always there, just beneath the surface, waiting to break free. And then there was Cole. His presence was a comfort, but it also made my heart ache in ways I didn't understand. Every time he was near, I felt something stir inside me, something I hadn't felt in years. But I couldn't allow myself to feel that. Not now. Not when everything was falling apart. The next morning, I met with my lawyer again. He went over the final details of the case, but I couldn't focus on anything he was saying. All I could think about was the looming hearing. The battle was about to begin, and I didn't know if I was strong enough to win. I couldn't lose Noah. Not to Liam. Not to anyone. Chapter 10. The hearing. The day of the hearing arrived far too quickly. My nerves were a mess, my hands shaking as I adjusted my dress and stared at my reflection. I didn't recognize myself. I looked like someone who was about to lose everything. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, but it was impossible. Noah was asleep, and I had to leave him with Mrs. Harlow for the day. It felt wrong, walking away from him. It felt like I was walking into a storm with no umbrella. I couldn't protect him from what was coming. As I drove to the courthouse, my mind kept replaying every conversation, every moment with Liam. What had gone wrong? What had I missed? I thought I had known him, but the man in that courtroom would be a stranger, and I couldn't trust him. The courthouse was intimidating. Cold marble floors, the sound of footsteps echoing through the vast halls. The moment I walked into the courtroom, I felt every pair of eyes turn toward me. Liam sat with his lawyer, his face an unreadable mask. Kara was there too, sitting behind him, her arms crossed, her eyes cold. It was as if they were a team. I felt completely alone. My lawyer, Jack, guided me to my seat, giving me a comforting nod. He whispered, "Stay strong. We have the evidence. This is about Noah." But the doubt still lingered. Would it be enough? The hearing began, and Liam's lawyer stood first, presenting his case. He painted a picture of me as an unfit mother, showing photos of moments I thought were private, moments with me and Noah, moments where I had looked vulnerable. I felt my stomach turn, but I didn't let it show. I couldn't. "Your Honor, my client is a father who has every right to be a part of his son's life," Liam's lawyer said, glancing at me with a practiced coldness. "My client was absent for a time, yes, but he's now in a position to provide a stable home for his child." I could feel the weight of his words sinking in. He was good. Too good. The room felt like it was closing in on me, suffocating me. I wanted to scream, to tell them that they didn't know what it felt like to fight for someone you loved. But I stayed silent. I had to. My lawyer stood up next, presenting the case for my sole custody. He was calm, calculated, presenting the facts of Liam's abandonment, his recent actions, and my ability to care for Noah. He spoke of my stability, my dedication, my willingness to put Noah's well-being first. And then came the turning point. My lawyer presented a piece of evidence Liam hadn't anticipated. A message from Kara, one that showed her attempts to manipulate the situation. It wasn't a direct confession, but it was enough. It was enough to show that she had played a part in everything that had happened. I watched Liam's face fall as he realized what had just happened. Kara's eyes darted nervously, but it was too late. My lawyer had them. I could feel the shift in the room. The air seemed to change. Liam's lawyer sputtered, but there was no denying it. The truth was out, and it couldn't be ignored. As the judge deliberated, I sat in silence, my heart hammering in my chest. I kept thinking about Noah. I kept thinking about what would happen to him if this didn't go the way I hoped. The judge finally spoke. "I have reviewed the evidence, and while both parties have shown a desire to be involved in Noah's life, I believe that the best interest of the child must be the priority." My heart skipped a beat. Could this be happening? "Maya, you will retain primary custody of Noah, but the court will allow visitation rights to Liam. The arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months." I couldn't breathe. I wanted to cry, to scream, but I didn't. I just nodded. The battle wasn't over, but it was a win. A small one, but a win. I couldn't let myself relax yet. The fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot.